Chucker, eh?
How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Sharp Hand Path. I'm your host, Jesse Morgan, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different on this channel, but I've been meaning to do it for a while. This is going to be part one of my martial arts film collection, and that comes with a little bit of a caveat though. This isn't going to include any of the main martial arts superstars collections that I have, like Bruce Lee or Jackie Chan or Iko Uwais, etc., that I plan on doing. I also plan on obviously doing a few more highlighted feature martial artists on this channel and just doing a specific collection for them. But there's a bunch of other stuff I have in my collection that doesn't feature those main martial arts stars. So let's start off with part one, the B section, as I don't have any A's. I was going to put the Assassin's Creed series in this, Assassin's Creed 1 and Assassin's Creed Lineage, but neither of those really seem to meet the expectations for the martial arts section, and they're probably just going to be put away in a different section of my movies. So yeah, that's why we're not showcasing them here, and I think you'll all agree with me. The Assassin's Creed film and Assassin's Creed Lineage, which was a compilation of a couple YouTube videos that was promoting the second game, doesn't really qualify as martial arts films exactly. Sure, there's some punching and kicking and swordplay in it, but it's not exactly focused on martial arts. So let's talk about the B's that do. So the first one in my collection is a film by Paneridicry, which you might have heard before. He is Tony Jaa's kind of mentor and guy that has kind of boosted his career before he got super duper famous. And although I don't have an Ong Bak film or a Protector film in my hand, I do have Bangkok Knockout, also known as BKO, Bangkok Knockout. It's a pretty intense film with a bunch of wild and elongated fight scenes with Paneridicry's top-notch, high-intensity, blistering fight scenes. The choreography is nuts. It's brutal. It's fast. It's very technical and particular. The plot in this is not too super crazy. Basically a group of martial artists. I'm not sure if they're like a team that competes in tournaments and stuff like that, or if they're like a stunt crew or something. It's been a while since I watched this, admittedly. Yeah, basically a group of martial arts friends in one way or another has one of their teammates or friends get captured by this guerrilla assassin group for whatever reason, and there's probably a ransom involved, and if it doesn't get paid, they're going to kill their friends. So this group of martial arts friends track down where their friend is being held, or maybe one of them gets called to the location. Again, it's been a while since I've seen this, but they eventually meet up at this big warehouse construction site area and are met by a lot of the henchmen and assassins and ninjas and stuff like that that work for the main bad guy, or bad guys. I think there might be two. And they have to fight their way through all of these different ruffians in order to save their friend. And it's basically just one crazy fight after another. There's mini bosses throughout sections of this warehouse that are stronger and bigger and tougher and more menacing looking than the main kind of cannon fodder that these guys can butt kick their way through. There's one guy that's got like this black mask and a hoodie, kind of looks like Jason Statham's Death Race mask, or the guy that wears that mask in Death Race, but he's kind of smaller and skinnier. He's not that big and buff. But there is a guy in this that there is kind of huge and tall, and it takes a few of them to knock down and hit, and even a big lead pipe doesn't really do too much damage against them, and he throws a bunch of the friends all over the place and whoops their ass for quite a while before I think they run him over with a modified car that's got bulletproofing and stuff on. It's pretty neat, and then a bunch of them get slammed up against the car. And then at the very end of the film, I'm pretty sure it's Paneridicry himself that has kind of one last big fight with 3 of the last remaining members. It's pretty intense. But yeah, so plot and acting, probably not the greatest in this, But damn, there are fight scenes upon fight scenes. And if I was to get in any one of these, I would probably die within the first 5 hits, because these are intense, very intense fight scenes. Definitely worth checking out, if not just for that. Don't know if I showed the disc, probably didn't, but that's what my copy looks like. Looks like it came from a local video place, Le Super Club Videotron, so a French rental store. Yeah, so that's the first one. Second in my collection is a Bruce Lee related film that wasn't in my Bruce Lee collection, mainly because I didn't have it at the time, and secondly because it's not actually Bruce Lee, it's someone playing Bruce Lee, sort of like Brandon Lee in Dragon. This one is called Birth of the Dragon. So yeah, pretty interesting. It took me a while to track this down. I was really interested in finding it. It has Philip Ng as Bruce Lee, and it's basically a film that goes over a bit of Bruce Lee's life, but mainly focuses around the Wong Jack Man character and their fight or two that they have in the story of Bruce Lee. So yeah, I liked it. I liked where it went. Some people didn't find this the greatest film for whatever reason. Maybe because of the way they portray Bruce Lee in it. I don't know. He's a little arrogant in this, but from what I've seen, Bruce Lee was a fairly arrogant guy because he was like the best fighter and no one could beat him. So when you know you can beat up pretty much anyone who starts to fight with you, you probably start growing a bit of arrogant and an attitude and a big head. So not really surprising. I don't know how many people have this on their radar, but again, I really enjoyed it. The fight between him and Wong Jack Man is really good. He has a buddy in this as well that kind of looks out for him at the end. It's settled in a very interesting way that you haven't really heard too much, at least not if you just watch the movies or even the Legend of Bruce Lee Chinese TV show that's on Netflix. So yeah, it's a different view on those events. I recommend checking it out if you're a fan of Bruce Lee at all. The actor playing Bruce Lee, Philip Ng, does a good job portraying him, at least from what I remember, and the other things that happen kind of in between his fight with Wong Jack Man and the ending, where there's like a fight at a club, which is kind of neat and has some pretty interesting fight scenes, is worth it, in my opinion. If you think you know and have seen everything about Bruce Lee, maybe check this out and give that a second thought. So yeah, Birth of the Dragon with Philip Ng. Next are a couple of something that I'm not a big fan of, but Bruceploitation films. This one is Goodbye Bruce Lee, His Last Game of Death. It's got clips of the Game of Death films in it, and it's got a little couple of clips of Bruce Lee actually in it, but then the rest of it's played by Bruce Lee. Let's show you the inside. There's the inside disc. Now, I watched this once, and I don't know how well I was paying attention to it. I'm not a big fan, again, of Bruceploitation films, and especially ones that just recycle footage of his not-so-great film. I wasn't really a big fan of the Game of Death. I think I really liked Game of Death 2, though, when it pretty much just like veered completely out of left field with the storyline. I enjoyed where it went there, but when it tried to include Bruce Lee and that kind of stuff from the first film, wasn't really that great. This one kind of does the same thing. It includes a little bit of his Game of Death films, obviously, and has a little bit of like tribute footage and some reflections of his death by a couple of his friends, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar being one of them. But then the character Bruce Lee ends up getting involved with some fights and some weird seedy street fighters in the underworld, and I don't know. And they try to pitch this with Bruce Lee mysteriously died during the filming of this movie as a way to get you to watch it. It is not going to focus, is it? No. But yeah, they try to use that as a tagline to make it seem mysterious and entertaining. But yeah, ultimately it's a fairly forgettable film. I would only get this if you're into Bruceploitation films. And I'm aware that there's a Bruce exploitation box set out there. Not getting it. I feel like it's a slap in the face to Bruce Lee. I should also mention the only reason I have that in the next one is because my father-in-law, the wife's mother's boyfriend, got me these because he knows I like Bruce Lee and thought I would enjoy these. There is a film on this next one though that I do like, but it's not because it has anything to do with Bruce Lee. But let's talk about the one that does first. There's Bruce's Fists of Vengeance. Now, Bruce Lee, I don't know how to pronounce Lee with one E in it, but Bruce Lee and Don Gordon is in Bruce's Fists of Vengeance on that side there. And there's not much to see for the disc, unfortunately. It's just double-sided and all silver. It's interesting because in Bruce's Fists of Vengeance, Bruce Lee, he has a book that was written by Bruce Lee, apparently, and it has secret martial arts instructions or information in it that helps him become a better fighter. And apparently there is a underworld boss that wants to steal this book from him and get the secrets inside it. Bruce Lee must defend the secret book from an evil kung fu expert, Don Gordon, who will stop at nothing to gain its secrets. And yeah, it's weird how they would choose to use a secret martial arts book written by Bruce Lee when it's not a secret book. It's called the Tao of Jeet Kune Do. Everyone knows about it and everyone can buy the secrets. So I wonder what the book that they're trying to imply Bruce Lee has. Very interesting premise, but honestly, it's just a Bruceploitation film that has a guy that looks like Bruce Lee fighting people and probably doing the wah shout, and it's trying to benefit off of Bruce Lee's image and name and stuff. So not a fan of that. The film is probably okay if you're into that kind of thing. Let me know if you've seen Bruce's Fists of Vengeance. And if you watch Bruceploitation, let me know where it ranks and how good or bad it is of his. Same with Goodbye Bruce Lee, Last Game of Death. I'd like to know, as someone who's watched a bunch of Bruceploitation, where those rank and where they sit. Do I have a couple of good ones or do I have a couple of the worst ones? I assume Goodbye Bruce Lee is probably one of the worst ones, and I'm assuming Bruce's Fist of Vengeance is in the middle tier somewhere, maybe. I won't be watching them again, and the only reason I have them in the collection is because they are gifted to me, and I don't quite feel like giving them up yet, because I don't know. It might inspire me down the road to maybe look into more, but definitely not anytime soon. Anyway, the reason I actually like this set, though, is because it has Jimmy Wang Yu's Blood of the Dragon. Can we please focus? Jesus fuck. Anyways, that's not going to focus. My apologies. But yep, Blood of the Dragon with Jimmy Wang Yu. And it has Chow Chow in it and Fei Lung in it. So it's got a couple fairly recognizable characters, especially if you're in the Shaw Brothers circle and you like watching that style of film and you know those actors and whatnot, so that's neat. So in this one, Jimmy Wang Yu stars as White Dragon. He's a martial arts expert, of course, and in this he's kind of a criminal, but he decides to help out a young boy deliver some top secret lists of rebel supporters to a Prince Ma Teng. So he's obviously trying to change his ways and start turning babyface instead of turning heel. I don't know if you know that terminology, but you know, babyface is good guy, heel is normally the bad guy in wrestling terms. But yeah, he's trying to become babyface and switches his role around, become a good guy and help out the prince and track down some rebels. Only the problem is Ma Teng has a vendetta against the White Dragon for murdering his father years earlier. So yeah, a little bit of conflict of priorities in there and a conflict of interests. It has a couple of good fight scenes. It's way better than any Bruceploitation films, and I would definitely recommend it if you like earlier, kind of older, obscure martial arts films. It was pretty good, and the reason why I'm keeping this double disc. So yeah, Blood of the Dragon with Jimmy Wang Yu and Lu Fang and Chow Chow. Made in 1978. I guess I should say when these were made. Yeah, that was in 1978. The Bruce's Fist of Vengeance was 1984, and Goodbye Bruce Lee was made in 1975. So yeah, those are the only Bruceploitation films I have and probably will ever have. Next are some Bloodsport, and we all know what Bloodsport is. Thank you, Van Damme. Excellent film. based on Frank Dukes' story of this underground kumite where a bunch of different martial artists get together and fight to be the best and win this tournament. Really, really good film. Saw this a lot of times as a kid. Watch it maybe once a year still. Really, really interesting fights. Probably one of Van Damme's best films. And as Bolo Young in it. He's a really, really cool actor, and sometimes in good things, sometimes in really bad things. I need to get the Tiger Claw series. It's pretty neat. This one is kind of a must-have if you're into martial arts films. Maybe if you really hate Van Damme for whatever reason, you wouldn't get this. But even so, there's other characters in this that are neat. And the training scenes are always cool when it comes to Van Damme's better films. It was kind of a must-have for me. Y'all should know Bloodsport by now. I shouldn't have to describe it and talk about it too much other than just praising it. So yeah, that one's in here. Now the next two are touch and go. They get worse as they go on. But this is Bloodsport 2 with Daniel Bernhardt. Daniel Bernhardt is kind of a good Costco brand version of Van Damme. He does his best with the script he's given, honestly. Bloodsport 2 is a fairly decent straight-to-DVD TV film. This is the next kumite, and it's not terrible. I would say get this one and then maybe stop there. Daniel Bernhardt in this one plays a kind of street fighter, thief type character. He tries to dress up and look well done sometimes. Also, a cool thing in this, Pat Morita, Mr. Miyagi, he's in this, but he just plays a kind of rich British millionaire that Daniel Bernhardt steals a sword from and kind of owes him one by the end of the film. But yeah, he ends up getting arrested and taught the secret of the Iron Fist by this kung fu master in a prison, and tries to turn his life around and become a better person. Tries to turn babyface, repay the people he's stolen from, help a couple of people, win the tournament, get the sword back and all that stuff after he's released from prison. Actually, I'm not sure if he's released or if he just escapes. I can't remember. But yeah, this one's alright. Bloodsport 2, The Last Kumite, definitely worth picking up, especially if you have Bloodsport 1 and are into low-budget B-movie martial arts films. Next would be Bloodsport 3, if it wasn't like anywhere from $50 to $200 on eBay and Amazon and stuff. So yeah, for a DVD copy of Bloodsport 3, I'm going to be paying out my butt, and it's even less quality than Bloodsport 2, but it would be the last one I would actually want to get in the series, especially after seeing Bloodsport 4, The Dark Kumite. This thing is ass. Ass! This is terrible. I don't know who thought this would be a great idea, and the acting in this has to be the worst acting I've ever seen. Again, Daniel Bernhardt does his best with the script given to him, but the script is awful. I don't know. I could write a better script, and I'm nowhere near the Hollywood script writing type, so don't buy this. This is really, really hard to sit through. It's boring. It's contrived. The fight scenes are horribly choreographed, and the budget for this must have been like $2,000, and that must have just been to pay Daniel Bernhardt to be in this nightmare of a film. Should I even bother explaining the plot? The plot's stupid. We'll do it anyways. Basically, Daniel Bernhardt's character in this one, same character from the last two films, yeah, but he tries to infiltrate a death row jail to uncover the mysterious deaths of some inmates. Who cares? They're on death row. They're gonna die anyways. He has to go investigate that for some reason, and in this, there's basically a undisputed type underground fight system going on in the jail, because of course, super duper original idea, right? So that's going on, and the warden's corrupt because of course he is. And then the winners of the correction facilities underground fighting, the winner of that goes to an even more underground fighting kumite type of thing called the Dark Kumite, and then you have to fight for your life there. Again, it's contrived, it's up its own ass, and it's too complicated for how terrible the script is. This needed a $100 million budget at least in order to pull this off properly. It was a straight to DVD TV film. This abomination should have never got made, and I can only imagine how much this cost the studio. It was probably made on a budget of $2,000, and they probably still owe Daniel Bernhardt back pay for doing this film. Bad. Don't ever pick up a copy of this. Don't waste your time with this. If you find a cheap copy of Bloodsport 3 for under, 50 or 40 bucks, maybe grab that if you really want to complete your collection, but just forget this one exists. It is so hard to sit through, and it's really, really bad. Enough dumping on Bloodsport 4. Let's move on to a movie that is really good, considering. I wish there was a Blu-ray copy of this. This is Born Invincible, aka Shaolin's Born Invincible. Carter Wong. This is a digitally remastered version, so I guess digitally remastered from a VHS, because it's still, the quality is still pretty grainy and still pretty bad. But video quality aside, this movie is actually really good. It's basically about the origins of Pai Mei learning how to become invincible in Shaolin and get a impenetrable skin, and he has the only one weak spot is hidden somewhere, and he has to practice to keep it safe while the rest of his body is unbreakable and invincible. This has Lei Lo or Lo Lei in it, Corey Yun, and of course Carter Wong, and is directed by Joseph Kuo. But yeah, he goes around challenging people and killing people, proving his might and seeing who he can take on in the martial arts world. A bunch of people have to figure out how to find his secret weak spot and take him down, and use special skills to figure it out and do so. It's a pretty straightforward Pai Mei versus everyone, white eyebrows, killer priest type of deal. As far as I'm aware, actually has nothing to do with Shaw Scope or Shaw Brothers. It looks like that style of film, but made outside of the studio, and has a whole list of a bunch of different films that are like that are outside of Shaw Bros. A bunch of Wu Tang films, Gods of Wu Tang, Wu Tang Clan, Shaolin and Wu Tang, Shaolin Wu Tang 2, Fighters from Shaolin, Killer Priest, Wu Tang Swordsman, Legend of the Liquid Sword, the Wu Tang Master, Thundering Mantis, Hell's Windstaff, Snake and Eagle Shadow 2. So yeah, there's a bunch you can collect. I'll put this on screen and maybe you'll be able to pause and see it. No? That sucks. Maybe I'll put a list in the description box if I can remember to do so. But yeah, this is pretty good. Again, I hope we eventually get a Blu-ray of this. If anyone knows of a Blu-ray about it, let me know, because I wouldn't mind picking it up. And if you're into, not wuxia, but kung fu films that are like Shaw Bros outside of that company, this is definitely one to check out and track down. And if you're into Pai Mei films like I am, this is one to pick up. It's not Pai Mei. It's unofficially Pai Mei. It's one of those not Pai Mei films. But come on, Invincible, white-haired, white eyebrows fighter. Come on, it's Pai Mei. Good film. Highly recommend it. And the last but not least on this list is probably something that a bunch of you will laugh at me for, and especially when you find out that I really, really like it. But this is something that I watched earlier on in my teens, like 13, 14, maybe 12 years old. I saw this. It was awesome. I've never seen anything like it before, besides Enter the Dragon, Mortal Kombat, or Street Fighter. I didn't really know too much about kung fu films and things like that. So when I saw Bulletproof Monk as a young teen or a kid, this blew my mind and was awesome. Sean William Scott pulls off a pretty believable martial artist. I don't know if he knows martial arts in real life or not. Let me know in the comment section if he does. But he seems pretty credible when he pulls the shit off. And the fact that he learns it from watching old kung fu flicks in the theater is kind of funny, because I think he lives above a theater or something, so he can watch old kung fu movies whenever he wants, which that would be awesome. Hell yeah. So yeah, he ends up running into this monk played by Chow Yun-fat, which I know a lot of you guys love, so that's cool. I'll have to check out more Chow Yun-fat films. I only know this one off the top of my head. Oh, and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, obviously. Amazing film. But yeah, this monk has this scroll with some secret kung fu stuff in it, some kung fu secrets. There's a secret of the scroll in the film that I don't want to give away. Even if someone steals the scroll, you're not going to get the secrets for certain reasons. Watch the movie if you haven't. And that's kind of neat. And he runs into him and steals he steals the scroll from the Bulletproof Monk. He has to like kind of have a head-to-head with him and be like, hey, yeah, I stole from you, but I'm a good guy. I'm just trying to live my life. The Kung Fu guys are like, okay, you're going to have to learn how to defend yourself, and you're a part of this now because the people know that you took it and they're going to be after you. And there's a pretty funny situation with that as well. And then the lead woman in this, he's trying to woo and gain her respect, and she's kind of living a double life. She's part of this gang, but she's also part of this classy high-end family as well. He's kind of half-assed fulfilling a prophecy that has to do with this ancient monk secret stuff. It's all by accident, pretty much, because there's ways that the prophecy could be interpreted, but he's accidentally fulfilling it technically. So it's interesting how that goes on. And then the ending is just wild, batshit crazy stuff. You're like, holy crap, didn't see that coming. And I would love for a sequel, but obviously that's never going to happen. But I really, really enjoyed this film. It is a staple of my early childhood memories. Bulletproof Monk. Gotta love it. Even though it's probably cheesy and cringy to a lot of you guys. Let me know how you feel about that film. If you feel like, is it a guilty pleasure with you, childhood favorite, or is it just cringy garbage that you will never watch again? Anyway, thanks for watching. That was part 1, the bees in my martial arts collection. And until next time, Shei, Na Shin, and one on.
We should run. We should hide. We should kick their butts.